Welcome, my name is Thomas Ledford. I'm here to share in this video Preparer's Due Diligence Checklist, which is the form 8867. This is a very important form. This form deals with people who receive earned income credit as part of their refund. And so for people who receive earned income tax credit as part of their refund, they have additional forms to fill out for the client, especially based on the type of software you're using. Some software more robust and refined to accommodate the due diligence requirements, and some tax software systems are not. And so it's based on what system you're using. Drake is what I use along with other software, but Drake is the only one I ran across so far that has the due diligence forms associated with the people who receive earned income tax credit as part of their refund. So it's very important to be able to know your due diligence requirements, regardless if you're using software that includes those forms or not. You must know those, especially when it comes to the client and them possibly being audited. You want to make sure your client is qualified for the credit. They have supporting documents for the credit up front. That way, if a situation arises where they do get a letter, they do need the information to send in to the IRS to prove the child tax credit or the additional child tax credit or the earned income tax credit or the other dependent credit or even the American Opportunity credit, that you have those documents already in your file. And as a courtesy, we tend to send that information to the IRS on their behalf, because normally when they reach out to us for the information they need or what they need to have or what they need to put together to send to the IRS, if we already have it, then we can just, as a courtesy, make sure the IRS receives those documents on their behalf, which helps the client not have to worry about making sure that information gets to them. So a lot of times I like to set myself up to the point where I have all the documents I'm going to need up front. So if the case should be that they receive a letter during the tax season or after the tax season, that the information we knew they would probably need, we already have enough files. And that's how that basically works. That's the smartest way to go about it. And so in this video, I'm going to share about this form and how to fill it out. And so I've been in this industry for the last 19 years, the last 13 as a business owner. And so I specialize in helping individuals who started and who work in the industry position themselves from working for a tax firm to starting their own tax business. That's what I specialize in doing. And so on my channel, The World of Tax Preparation, on YouTube, I do all videos concerning the world of tax preparation. And so if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you can be notified every time I go live or do an upload to my channel concerning content. If you want to follow me on my journey to get the up close and personal look of what this industry is all about and how it relates to you and where you fit in at, if you're looking to start in this industry by acquiring the tax preparation skills, please follow along with me on my journey as I continue to be in this industry over the last 19 years, again, the last 13 years as a business owner. And so we're going to go into this video line by line, explaining this form and how to properly fill it out and the documents you should have access to or should already have in your file to help protect you and the client in case of an audit. So again, the form is called Preparer's Due Diligence Checklist. It's number form 8867. And the first thing we do on this form is the taxpayer name, go up top along with their social security number. Then it says enter the name of the preparer and the peton, and so that'll be me. If I'm the person preparing the return, my credential, my name and my number will go right here on this line. And then we go down here to the next section where it says part 1. It says please check the appropriate box for the credits and or head of household filing status claim on the return and complete the related part 1 through 5 for the benefits claim. Check all that apply. So based on you doing the return, the great thing about doing the return through software, this form is going to be filled out for you based on the data you've put in on the tax return, and that data is directly linked to the dependent section. So when you put your children in and fill it out properly, this form is going to populate and it's going to have earned income EIC already checked if that's what credit you received. If you received any child tax credit, the CTC will be checked. If you received both the CTC and an additional child tax credit, that applies to that. If you had a situation where you had a household, that will be checked. And if you even had a college student, you would have the American Opportunity box checked as well. And so that's how that works when it comes to doing tax returns using the software. When you fill in certain data, forms are generated based on the data you put into the system. So that's why it makes it so much easier to calculate the return when you're using tax software. But the key to using tax software is being able to put the information inside the system by filling out the forms correctly to generate the correct calculations. Because you could get a false positive return, meaning that you generated a refund for the client, but you didn't generate the accurate amount that they should have gotten because you didn't properly fill out each form associated with the return. And that happens a lot for people who don't know what they're doing when it comes to preparing individual income taxes. And so that's what I experienced over my years of being in this industry. So you want to know what you know, what you know, what you know. That's very important. Having the knowledge and the skills to be able to do returns either by hand or by software is the well-rounded tax professional, tax preparer individual you want to become if you're not that person already. See, I can do them both ways. I was taught how to prepare individual income taxes by hand and then learn how to put them inside the tax software. And so you want to be able to do both. You want to be able to have the skills where if your tax software glitches or shuts down, or you don't have access to a device where you can prepare the return by software, that you have your forms and schedules and worksheets and publications and tables and stuff at your disposal, where you can still prepare the return, still get the client the results they're looking for, which makes you a hero in their eyes, which is so very awesome. And so again, we're gonna go and get started with this form. Continue with the form. The part one where we broke it down, where it's 5 different sections that you may qualify for a credit. And so this form will cover those sections: EIC, CTC, ACTC, AODC, AOTC, and HOH. And those are abbreviations for earned income credit, child tax credit, additional child tax credit, other dependent credit, American Opportunity Credit, which is a college education credit, and HOH is head of household credit. And so if you see any of these type of credits as part of your refund, this form will generate, and it must be filled out properly. Well, in fact, you got to actually manually open this form up and fill it out properly. That's how that goes with this form. So the next question, the next section starts with 1. It says, did you complete the return based on information from the tax year 2019 provided by the taxpayer or originally obtained by you? That should be yes. And then the next question says, if the credits are claimed on the return, did you complete the applicable EIC and or CTC, ACTC, or DC worksheet found in the form 1040, 1040 SR, 1040 NR, 1040 PR, or 1040 SS instructions, and or of the AOTC worksheet found in the form 8863 instructions, or your own worksheets that provide the same information and all related forms and schedules for each credit claim? That should be yes as well. And that's how that works. Number 3 says, did you satisfy the knowledge requirements? To meet the knowledge requirements, you must do both of the following: interview the taxpayer, ask questions, contemporaneously document the taxpayer's responses to determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credits and or head of household filing status. Review information to determine that the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credits and or head of household filing status, and to compute the amounts of any credits. And that should be yes. Then the next one is 4. Did any of the information provided by the taxpayer or third party for use in preparing the return, or information reasonably known to you, appear to be incorrect, incomplete, or inconsistent If that question is yes for you, then that's a glaring red flag, and you need to definitely have documentation inside your file that's going to allow the IRS to wonder why you still went on and done this tax return. And that's how that works. But if to you the information didn't appear to be incorrect, incomplete, or inconsistent, then you would check no. And then if you check no for that, then you skip 4A and B and you go to 5, which says, did you satisfy the record retention requirements? To meet the record retention requirements, you must keep a copy of the documentation referenced in 4B, a copy of the Form 8867, a copy of any applicable worksheets, a record of how or when and from whom the information used to prepare from 8867 and any applicable worksheets was obtained, and a copy of the documentation provided by the taxpayer that you relied on to determine eligibility for the credits and or household filing status, or to compute the amount of the credit. 5 should be yes. If it's not a yes, then you should be doing a return anyway. That's just my opinion. The next question is 6. Did you ask the taxpayer whether he or she could provide documentation to substantiate eligibility for the credit and head of household filing status and the amounts of any credits claimed on the return if his or her return is selected for audit? There should be yes, hopefully. But if you didn't, then you should have notes, like I said, all throughout certain parts of the return that validates why you don't have the actual documentation you need inside your file folder, because you asked the client, could they acquire the certain documents needed if you were audited, and you explained to them what those documents would be, and they told you yes, and so you denotated that, and so when you print out all your different forms, you made sure they were signed off on that particular form that's dealing with your notes and your due diligence to help validate why you went along with filling out the tax return for the client, even though certain parts of the 8867 you said no to. That raises a red flag when it comes to preparing a return. So the next line is 7. Did you ask the taxpayer if any of these credits was disallowed or reduced in any previous year? And a lot of times, reading that question, they really don't understand it. So what I normally do is I ask the client, in any particular year, did you do a tax return where you didn't receive all of your refund, or did you receive a refund and then later on we got a letter asking you to prove the information on the tax return that you got that year? And so they understand it better when I break it down to them that way, opposed to trying to read the question verbatim and having them to try to understand it. And then so in a situation like this where this doesn't apply, then when you say yes because you did ask the question. 7A says, did you complete the required recertification, which is Form 8862? Well, in a situation where they said yes to that, then yes, we would go forward and do a Form 8862, which is for people who who had issues where they filed a tax return, especially that had dependents on it, where they was disallowed for certain credits, and now they are required to have a Form 8862 attached to their refund. That's generally how that situation works. Then we go to line 8. If the taxpayer is reporting self-employment income, did you ask the question to prepare a complete and correct Schedule C Form 1040 or 1040 SR? Hopefully you said yes to that. Like I said, any negative responses to questions will definitely need to have additional notes concerning those responses. And like I said, for me, if it's too many red flags, I'm not doing a return no way. And so that's how that works for me, because I'm not going to be responsible for a return I'm not comfortable with. And so you got to be able to make that judgment call for yourself. The next part is part 2, where it says due diligence questions for a return claiming EIC. It says 9A, have you determined that the taxpayer is in fact eligible to claim the EIC for the number of qualifying children claim or is eligible to claim the EIC without the qualifying child. Skip 9A and B. Skip 9B and C if the taxpayer is claiming EIC and does not have any qualified child. So in a situation where you have a tax client who's receiving EIC but doesn't have any children on there, they get it strictly for themselves and cost they made a certain dollar amount that was under the income limit. And then in that situation, then you wouldn't have to check box A and B and C. And that's how that works. Only time you check box 9, A, B, and C is for taxpayers who have qualifying children on their return who receive EIC. Then we will check all 3 boxes as yes. And then box B says, did you ask the taxpayer if the child lived with the taxpayer for over half the year, even if the taxpayer had supported the child the entire year? And so, that should be yes. And C, did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming the EIC when a child is the qualified child of more than one person? That should be yes. Part 3 says, due diligence questions for returns claiming child tax credit, additional child tax credit, or any other dependent credit. And so, line 10 says, have you determined that each qualifying person for the child tax credit, additional child tax credit, or other dependent credit is a taxpayer dependent who is a citizen, nationalized, or resident alien of the United States? That should be yes on some level. Did you explain to the taxpayer that he or she may not claim the child tax credit, additional tax credit, or if the taxpayer has not lived with the child for over half a year, even if the taxpayer has supported the child, unless the child custodial parent has released a claim of exemption for the child? Line 12, did you explain to the taxpayer the rules about claiming the child tax credit, additional child tax credit, or other dependent credit for a child or divorced or separated parents, or parents who live apart, including any requirements to attach a Form 8332 or similar statements to the return? That should be yes. Part 4, due diligence questions returns claiming a married opportunity credit. So if this return doesn't have any dependent on here that's in college, then you don't have to touch that. It doesn't apply. 5 says due diligence questions for claiming head of household. So again, if the filing status is not head of household, you don't have to answer that question either. Then you skip down to the last section where it says eligibility certification. You will have compiled with all due diligence requirements for claiming applicable credits and head of household filing status on the return of the taxpayer identified above. If you interview the taxpayer, ask adequate questions, contemptuously documented the taxpayer's responses on the return or in your notes, review adequate information to determine if the taxpayer is eligible to claim the credit and or head of household status to compute the amounts of the credit. B, complete the Form 8867 truthfully and accurately and complete the actions described in the checklist for any applicable credits claiming of head of household status if claimed. Submit Form 8867 in the manner required and keep all 5 of the following records for 3 years from the latest of the date specified in the Form 8867 instructions under documentation retention. A copy of this Form 8867, the applicable worksheets, or your own worksheets for the credits, copies of any documents provided by the taxpayer on which you relied to determine the taxpayer's eligibility for credits and head of household status, compute the amount of the credit, a record of how, when, and from whom the information used to prepare this form and the applicable worksheet will obtain a record of any additional information you relied upon, including questions you asked and the taxpayer responses to determine the taxpayer eligibility for the credit and filing head of household status to compute the amount of the credit. If you have not compiled with all of the due diligence requirements, you may have to pay a $530 penalty for each failure to comply related to claims of the applicable credits ahead of household status. So you click yes to that, which is line 15. Did you certify that all the answers on the Form 8867 are to the best of your knowledge, true, correct, and complete? Yes. The penalty for each offense went up $10. It was $520, now it's $530 for each offense. So it's going to be quite expensive if you get penalized if it comes to be that you didn't do your due diligence requirements for your clients, so you want to be in compliance with this. And so this is a rough breakdown of how to fill out the Pay Prepares Due Diligence Checklist Form 8867. Like I said, if you like to see any other forms or schedules prepared on my channel, please in the comment section leave me a comment of what you would like to see done on my channel for preparing a specific form, or even preparing even specific type of tax return that's dealing with the 1040 series client. And I'll see you in my next video.